Yesterday, it was the scene of a tense diplomatic face-off. Russia versus Ukraine and the US, the OSCE meeting, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE. It's a multinational security grouping. It includes nations from Europe, North America and Asia. Russia is also part of this group. So Malta invited their foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov. It was a big moment for Moscow because Malta is also a member of the European Union, and this was Lavrov's first visit to an EU nation since the war in Ukraine, the first in almost 3 years. As expected, the meeting produced fireworks. Lavrov was seated at the round table with his rival counterparts, Antony Blinken of the US and Andriy Sybiha of Ukraine. Just as Lavrov started to speak, there was a walkout. The delegations from Ukraine, Poland and Estonia left the room. Take a look. The Russian foreign minister took aim at NATO. He said the alliance needed a new enemy after the disgrace in Afghanistan. Hence, they were targeting Russia. He also accused NATO of starting a new Cold War. After that, it was Blinken's turn to speak. Though Lavrov did not stick around for that, he left immediately after his speech, something that the US diplomat did highlight.
The US and its allies threw it all away, as well as the anti-ballistic missile treaty and intermediate range and shorter range missile treaty. And the question is, what for? The answer to us is obvious. In order to return NATO to the political spotlight. After the Afghan disgrace, there was a need for a new common enemy. And the result is a reincarnation of the Cold War, only now with a much greater risk of it moving into a hot stage.
Now, I regret that our colleague, Mr. Lavrov, has left the room, not giving the courtesy to listen to us as we listen to him. And of course, our Russian colleague is very adept at drowning listeners in a tsunami of misinformation. Let's talk about escalation. Let's talk about the introduction of North Korean forces into Europe. Let's talk about the use of intermediate-range ballistic missiles to attack Ukraine.
A feisty statement from Antony Blinken. But let's be honest here, the scales have firmly tipped in Russia's favor. Blinken is an outgoing Secretary of State. His government tried very hard to isolate Russia. But Moscow is anything but. Just look at Lavrov's engagements in Malta. He met the foreign minister of Slovakia and also the foreign minister of Hungary. Both these countries are members of NATO and the EU. Yet they're talking to Sergei Lavrov of Russia. Plus, Russia knows that Donald Trump is coming to the White House. He has promised to end the war in Ukraine. He's also hinted at cutting off military aid to Kiev. That gives Moscow the upper hand. Vladimir Putin knows how to deal with Donald Trump, how to press the right buttons.